Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us at bidonbeef.com. We're excited to have you here for a big day in our world. We are kicking off the official first inaugural beef auction here. We are in beautiful rural New York. My name is Amanda Radke, and I'm the host of a podcast called The Heart of Rural America, a show where we highlight great people that we meet along the dusty trail who are doing inspiring things in their communities to make this country a better place. I'm joined today by Chris Earl. He's with CK6 Consulting. He is a rancher from New Mexico, and he's one of our partners at Bid on Beef. So, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Amanda. We've been on a couple times now. Everything, it seems like it's a first-time event, so exciting to be here. Beautiful part of the country, very productive, and I can't think of a better place to open up our platform. So.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I've got butterflies in my stomach, Chris, because today is a monumental day. This is something we've been talking about for a long time. It's finally coming to fruition. On June 1st, we announced that we were launching this first of its kind, first in the history of this country, a live auction platform where folks can go direct, pick a ranch that they want to align with, and they can buy steaks, they can pick the price, and they can deliver it straight to their door. So, Chris, tell us about this vision that you had many years ago and how we've gotten here to this point.
It's a historic vision. It's not mine, but it is based in capitalism, which I'm an old-time conservative, Amanda, and I believe in people. And so today's really a twofold day for me. You know, it's about the Waltons today, no question about that, but it's also about the consumer. And I think for historically, the first time in the country on beef protein, we've had some pilot auctions, but this is the first time on our platform that we are really giving the producer the opportunity to stake claim on a product they want at the value they want. And I think that's what, at its core, for me, America's all about. And, you know, as you go across the country and you see people with the different wherewithal, the different ways of being in life, the different ways I like the individualism that I see. I'm not a follower. I don't expect any American to be a follower. So I want to get in behind really initiatives that allow people free choice, free will. And I think both from a producer standpoint, like here today, and both from a consumer standpoint, we have brought a medium to the marketplace that allows for both. And I think in my core of cores, that is America to me. So it's exciting to get it going.
Yeah, and we're in New York where there's farms all over, and there's also access to a lot of people. And these folks are hungry to learn more about where their food comes from. And anytime I travel out here, I'm inspired by the fact that folks can just drive into somebody's yard. They can buy fresh produce or butter or garlic or steaks. But how is this shifting a little bit? Because this is a little different. I mean, we do cattle sales every week across this country. This is how cattlemen and women do business. Explain this auction process to people if this is their first time signing on and going to participate in an auction like this.
Well, I think for one, I just want to comment real quickly on what you said. You know, so me and you were driving around a little bit yesterday, and Western New York is no different than any other part of the country. You saw farms that originated here and started in the dairy business. Right? There's no more dairy cows on these farms. And that's because it moved to a monopolized system to where the individual, the producer, suffered. Mm-hmm. And they had to either go find something else to do or change their model. So when I see that, my incentive is really to add to the way this way of life, raising kids, can work on a piece of ground. And I don't want them to be part of a vertically integrated system. I want them to be the system, Amanda. And for me, that's important. So for me, the auction process has always allowed for that individual free will to make a determination on the value and the product, but best fits your operation. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to give a medium here where you can go. If you've never been involved in an auction process, it really, as you become comfortable with it, it's really kind of an exciting event. I call it game day, right? I mean, it's where everything happens. It's where the preparation ends, and it's where the event happens. And all of a sudden, you know where the point of the market, where the spears are crossed, that is the point of commerce. And that's exciting. And that point of commerce is where the seller sells and the buyer buys. And that value is determined, I think, by the producer at their comfort level. And I think so as you get in and you register and you don't have to spend $1 today.
Right.
That's the best thing as a consumer. When you go into something, you know you don't have to spend $1, you're comfortable. That's what we want to set up. We want you comfortable. But we also want to put a product in front of you that you just cannot but have it. Right? I mean, that's the game day part of it. And I think there's a lot of people, millions of people across this country that have the ability and the desire to own what they want to own. I want to give it to them.
Right.
And that's why we set this up.
Well, and consumer choice is such a wonderful thing. I mean, you have many options of where to source your food. And yet, you mentioned it a little earlier about the fact that we have lost a lot of the nation's dairy. If I can just tell a few statistics to teach you a little bit about the fight of the family farmer and rancher in America today, we lose 2,500 dairy farmers, family dairy farms each and every year in this country, Chris. We lose another 1,300 cow-calf ranchers like you and I every year in this country. We lose millions and millions of acres of farmland every year. And on the flip side, much of our food is centralized, corporatized, and the bigger get bigger and the small and mid-sized family farms get squashed. And what has that created is, well, first of all, it's a vulnerability in our food supply.
No question.
We saw that during COVID. If you guys remember, it wasn't too far long ago where the world shut down, things got crazy, trucks stopped running, shelves were bare, and people were scrambling and asking themselves, hey, if my beef or dairy or goods that I always go and buy at the big box stores aren't there anymore, do I know anybody that produces food? Yeah. And all of a sudden, it was a beautiful moment because I saw the trend of not only were more farmers opening their doors and saying, hey, we have food and we want to supply what you need for your family at a time when you can't get it. But on the flip side, it brought people back to the land. It brought people back to their food source. And I think that's the goal, or one of our goals with Bid on Beef, is to build relationships with the people we want to serve.
I think it's important. I mean, that's why I think that's why God puts us here. We had a nice conversation with a young guy this morning, Amanda, at breakfast. And that's what we talked about. We talked about, I'm one of these guys. If I want to spend my dollars where I want to spend my dollars, I'm not just going to spend my dollars on the cheapest product out there. That's not Chris Earl or my way. And I think that's not a lot of people's way. If I see somebody that's really working hard, doing a great job, bringing a great product, I'm probably going to spend more in order to support that way of life. Because I think that, to me, is Americanism. Is when you value your dollars enough that you've worked hard for, that you want to spend it with great people that maybe got young kids, that maybe want them to grow up in rural America, learn how to work, really learn how to take responsibility for the result, really face the challenges of life. Gosh dang it. I want to support that. And if I can support that by buying their product, which I also think is a tremendous experience, then I think that's the best of all worlds. Right. And I hope, my goal as we go through, and we got a fabulous team working on this. We've already, geez, man, what have we had since June 1st? Over 70 people that have inquired about selling on the platform. As this thing evolves, look, I don't have a goal to change the industry. Right. But I really want to change people's circumstances. That's what I want to do. And the people, and I'd like to know them. I'd like to know where it comes from. And man, if we can play a small part in keeping this way of life out in the country through protein and a great experience, a meal, which is such a family experience for me, is having that great meal. There's nothing better.
I do believe American consumers want to shop their values. They want to feel like they're supporting something that's bigger than themselves, or it supports an America they want to see. And at the end of the day, when I look at a steak on the dinner plate, I see freedom, I see liberty, I see choice, I see hard work ethic and grit because I know what it took to get there. But I also see family. Yeah. I see community. I see the value of when I can sit down with my 4 children and my husband and we can enjoy a meal together. I mean, it's an election year. There's a lot of division in this country, but it's hard to debate that the merits of a family supper enjoyed together could probably solve a lot of this nation's problems.
I agree. I mean, it's biblical, right? I mean, you can't argue against the truth. It's a truth. You know, even like when you pull in the Waltons here, you know, you're just across the road, Amanda, you see their hauling business, all the cars lined up there. They're employing people in the community, right? They're running cows. There's cows everywhere around here. There's cattle everywhere around here. There's people, look at, you got young people coming in, bringing stuff in. You know, look, that is Americanism to me. And I think if we can monetize that, if we can bring a great product to the market for people to experience what they used to experience on a great cut. Like I told you before, I travel a bunch. And I'm just telling you, the quality of meat that's bought in big box stores is not trajectorying up. It's
Right.
not going up.
Right.
But I can tell you what you're going to buy here today. And it's a great top-end product that if you go to a steakhouse and buy it, Amanda, you're going to pay $60 to $120
Right.
for the cut. Why not buy it today, take it home, cook it on your own grill with your family, and keep that experience not amongst everybody, but amongst your family. And I
Right.
think that's just an option that's going to be hopefully afforded through Bid on Beef over the next years and years and years.
Right. And there's a lot of producers we talk to across the country, Chris. We're in the heart of cattle country every day of the week, talking to people that are raising cattle and selling beef in a lot of different ways. But I think one of the things I wish more consumers knew is kind of the harsh reality of our way of life. And number one, 85% of our beef supply is held captive by 4 major players. 2 of those packers are foreign owned. On the flip side, we have less options for marketing those cattle. And that's why we're seeing these challenges in that pinch in that family farm and ranch. We're also seeing a lot of cattle imported from other places that aren't raised on American soil. And so today, as we lead up to this auction, it is a different choice. It is a choice to buy a steak where that calf, that animal was designed from the very beginning, from birth, with a great beef eating experience in mind, raised by an American family on American soil. The grains that they're fed are fed right here in their backyard in the fields close to home. They're employing people in the community. They're sourcing things from veterinarian supplies to equipment in these communities, and they're supporting an economy. But more than that, they're bringing the American dream back. To me, that's what this represents, a distinct choice to select something that you can really feel good about it after you take it off the grill.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and a lot of people ask me, well, how can people afford to pay that for, like, we've had some pilot auctions, right? And look, people already do.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda, they do every day.
Right.
Every second of every day, people are walking into high-end steakhouses to get an expert meal, to get a great meal wherever it is across the country, or they're grilling it themselves. People are already paying for it. All we're doing is giving the medium by which you can access it, own it, have it delivered, and you can tie into programs from across the country, no matter where you are. If you're in Utah and you find somebody in Linwood, New York, right? You can tie into their program and their product. It can be in your freezer in 4 days. And I think that's what is exciting about this direction, is that quality is no longer where you have to drive to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Quality is your computer away from you. That's it.
One click.
And you can one click, and you can have it there. You can get the experience. You can bring your family in. You can have friends over, and you can have what you would usually pay for. And I'm not arguing that the product at restaurants aren't worth that. My only point is, I want the producer to get part of the retail dollar that has been traded and made this the best product in the world. Absolutely. As it relates to beef. And it's time that producers that want to access that retail dollar and enter through this thing, that option is going to be there for them.
Right. And as we research this concept of, could we take the idea of what we do in the cattle business, selling bulls and females, and put it into a consumer market where this is a totally different way of buying things? And we thought, would the market accept this? And as we researched it, we realized there's things every day that are bought and sold in America just this way. Flowers, tuna, wine, cars, you name it. But it really puts the buyer in the driver's seat, where I can go on to bidonbeef.com. I can look through our ranching partners, our families that we are carefully vetting for the highest quality product possible. I can find a farmer or rancher that I align with. And then not only that, but I can pick the cut. I can pick how much I want to buy. And you can't do this anywhere else, I can pick the price that I want to pay. So talk about just that feeling, maybe from a consumer standpoint. What advice would you have as they're going onto this site? What could you tell them about the quality that we are guaranteeing at bidonbeef.com?
Well, I've been 33 years in the Angus business, and I can tell you, when you have a selection pressure of quality, right? So it's the ribeye, it's the marbling, it's the ability to do that consistently. That's what we want to bring to the level of product, right? I mean, I've got great friends. When I mentioned it on our last podcast, I think Amanda was, a good friend, Fred Lynn's, one of the best steaks in the world. He's got a great private sector meat company, and that's what he's always telling me. Focus on the quality, and you can focus on the quality when you know the people, mm-hmm. when you know the cattle, and like today, I think we mentioned yesterday. In the Angus business, there's a figure that basically gives a value to an animal on quality. And it just so happens you would have ate a steak out of the top 1% of the breed, at an animals that have traded at hundreds of thousands of dollars, Amanda. You were able to eat the beef, which good on you, because it was fantastic.
I'll tell you, it's a tough work perk to have
Right.
to sample all these steaks from across America. Like
Right.
you're just gonna have to pay me in steaks, I guess. I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good.
And I can tell you, I mean, just where we're at in our professional life as it relates to dealing with outfits that raise, I think, the best product in the world, it's going to be sourced. It's going to meet those expectations and surpass it. And I think that's the big thing from a consumer standpoint is when you do this. I mean, we referenced this thing last year. They tested a pound. My friend Mike Calicrate, there's a survey out there where they test ground beef and it had over 1,000 DNAs in it.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you the ground beef that's going to get bought today, it's got one.
Right.
It's got one. They know it. Matter of fact, it's got a registration number. It was registered with the American Angus Association, and that's what's selling today. And that's exciting when the people that you're buying from know exactly what the animal was, why it was created that way, and it was created that way for end product merit, marbling, ribeye, all the things that add to the experience of eating it. And it's going to be tremendous. I can just tell you it's going to be tremendous. And it's one of those things to where we're going to lean on capitalism. We're going to try and blow your mind on the quality so you come back.
Right.
We're just going to be open about it. That's what we want. We want people to keep coming back because the experience was so good.
Right. And, we're not trying to be everything to everybody. If you're a consumer and you've gone to the farmers markets or the grocery store, you probably see that there's a ton of labels on beef that you can kind of decipher through. There's grass fed, there's grain fed, there's natural, there's organic. And yet we've picked kind of a specific niche that we feel we can deliver to the marketplace in a consistent way. And I would liken it to, and I want Chris to explain this a little bit more, but to the Kentucky Derby. When you picture the Kentucky Derby, these are elite horses. They have pedigrees. They have breeding decisions that were made over multiple generations to get that horse to be that fast winning horse that wins the races, brings in all the dollars and all of the excitement. I would compare what we're doing in the cattle business, in our little corner of the cattle business in the Angus breed, to being that elite genetic experience. So talk to the consumers a little bit about the EPDs, what we do to select for carcass trait merits, and what you mean when you say this is a top 1% of the breed. How are you quantifying that number?
So what happens really when you're in the purebred business, most of these animals that are raised here will live a full life. Mm-hmm. Because their value is really their ability to produce genetics that go on and work for people that run cows to 10 to 12 years of age, or raise bulls that they go out and cover. What happens a lot of times, and what's neat about the product that you're going to get today, it's not diluted down. What you're going to experience and buy today is a registered animal that had all the selection pressures to be elite.
Right.
What happens, what you normally eat is that animal, say it's a bull, right, goes out and breeds a bunch of cows that you don't know. Right. That somebody buys the bull and they go out and they breed maybe a different breeds, and then that meat goes into the system. It gets combined with other meat, and then you wind up getting this culmination of the process of the chain. To where if you come here today, you're eating that animal.
Right.
That is the difference. You have accessed the elite of the elite as Absolutely. It relates to the product. So what the simplest way to put this for the producer is, you are not buying a watered down product that's been delivered through a food chain.
Right.
What you're buying today is a product that was designed, processed, packaged, and delivered to you with no other confluences on that quality.
By one family.
Huge, by one family. And I think when you can access the best of the best, I got a friend of mine, Judd Baldridge, he loves the best of the best, right? And I think that's what you're buying when you go directly to ranches, especially when you can buy it with a registration number. Right. It's the best of the best.
A single source animal that was born, raised, fed, and delivered to you by American farmers and ranchers.
When you're looking to buy and you're looking for options, and the other thing ability to do is you can price shop in here.
Right.
If you are, say you do have a budget, say you are looking at something, maybe you don't eat tomahawks all the time, but maybe you want to this time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And maybe you want to buy those tomahawks, but maybe you want to pile up on hamburger. Maybe you got a lot of kids, eat a lot of beef like we do. I think any offering that has the kind of options that we have here, that's exciting for the consumer. for the consumer, and give the owners a lot of credit in order that they have enough awareness that they've done this long enough that they're willing to do this and give you options. But to access this kind of animal that has had the selection pressures of a registered outfit, that's exciting for the consumer, and I think they're going to see the difference in the experience.
Absolutely. And at Bid on Beef, that is one of our priorities. We don't want this to be a Craigslist marketplace of meat. We want it to be a top shelf elite experience. And so the questions that our producers go through to be vetted to even be on this platform, it's extensive. We make sure that they focus on the genetics, the health, the nutrition, the packaging, the delivery, the processing. We want beef that's delivered straight to your door, that's frozen and ready to go. And I will say tonight, the offering, you can ship for $15 across America. So a pretty cheap way to access this beef and get it delivered straight to your door.
And it's American. That's another thing I forgot to mention through this thing. You know, as you go into the meat things, you go to the big box stores. To be honest with you, you don't know where a lot of this is. But I know one thing. When we started this company, Amanda, and me and Wes had this talk, and I had to talk with the team, I want this to be American.
Absolutely.
I want to know that it was designed by Americans. I want to know it was traded by Americans. And I know what it was done by one of the best auctioneers in the world to get that value.
Absolutely.
And I wanted that process in this, and that's what's going to happen today.
And really, that's also a reflection of a political issue in this country where we don't have access to actual labeling of where your beef is coming from, and good, bad, or ugly of how you think that can be fixed in this country. What we've realized is there isn't a political will to be honest with the consumer. Right. There isn't that political drive to label the beef that you might find in a big box store made in the USA. So instead of waiting for politicians to fix the problem, this is our humble effort as cattlemen and women to say, we can guarantee you that this is made in the USA beef today.
So the best way for me, I thought, to get around all the nuances that are out there, all the words, all this stuff, all the labeling, all that stuff, Amanda, is here what I'm selling today. We're selling Walton's Way Angus today.
Absolutely.
That's our label.
Yep.
Our label today is Walton's Way. You can take our word on it. You can trust the experience. And if you don't like the experience of this, let us know. Because we're not selling Prime. We're not selling High Choice. We're not selling any label. We're selling Walton's Way.
Absolutely.
And that's who I'm going to put my stamp on. That's who I'm going to believe in. And that's who I'm trusting is going to take it to the market and deliver the experience for the value that you paid. But part of where we're at as a country where we feel like we have a need to try and defend ourselves for being rural or being beef producers.
Right.
I'm sorry, Amanda. I'm not going to do it. All I'm going to say is if you want to know, you come sit in a pickup truck out here for an hour and watch a family work.
Right.
You want to see how the cattle here, probably there's Bert over there. I've got 6 kids. Sometimes the cows come in front of him, right?
Right.
So,
right.
and that just happens when you're on a ranch in rural America. The cattle, your livelihood becomes something that becomes so precious to you that you value it. We don't need to explain it to people. We don't need to defend ourselves. You want to know? Buy the product, experience the product, tell us what you think, and then we're going to give you every kind of service we can. And I'm just not in the mode anymore of trying to defend and trying to think our way of life. It's the greatest way of life in the world. It sustains the country. It sustains good people. That's all you need to know. You like our product? Come buy it. If you don't, you've got other options.
Absolutely. And yet there's less than 2% of the people in this country that actually produce all of our food. And most consumers are 3 or 4 generations removed from the family farm that maybe their previous generations used to do. And to me, this is our way of inviting you back into that culture, back into that way of life. So Chris, as we kind of wrap up the show, I want to ask you some rapid questions.
Sure.
Going to fire them at you. Okay, number 1, I've got some consumer submitted questions, but number 1, I want to ask you, how is life different from the show Yellowstone? Because Yellowstone kind of put it on the map that, cowboys were a certain way and the cowboy culture and the costumes and Kevin Costner and all those things. That's not quite our reality. So what does the cowboy culture mean to you compared to Yellowstone?
Well, for me, the cowboy culture for me has always dealt with marriage. Mm-hmm. So it's always dealt with how can 2 people that love each other, that become one, can sustain a family and a purpose for God, that what they raise can pay for that. And I think the cowboy way for me, and this is why me and you have talked, the creeping in of government and corporations into this way of life is something I want to defend till I die against. Mm-hmm. Because the challenges of the cowboy way are really the payment for what we do in this way of life is you survived the challenges. You made all this thing important enough to you that you stuck it out.
Right.
That's where a cowboy has always been different. A cowboy looks into the wind, doesn't run with the wind.
Right.
And I think that's the difference. And that's the stuff you can trust as a person that's gotten away. And I'm not faulting people that's gotten away from rural America. They have choices just like I have a choice. But you can really trust that the cowboy is in this, not only to raise a great product and to raise it, but he accepts the challenges of life and beats them.
Right.
And that's what I want. That's for me. There weren't enough cows on Yellowstone to support the way they live.
Right.
I can tell you
There's
that
like
right
4
now.
cows and more
Right.
helicopters than cows.
Right. So I can tell you the cowboy, the true cowboy that runs ranches knows the bottom line, know what he's got to do to get there, know what he's got to do to exceed it so he can do it again next year.
Right. To me, the cowboy culture, the American cattle rancher way of life represents that rugged independence, that spirit of American liberty that's built this country. And when you talk about the challenges of this way of life, people might not realize this is a 365-day-a-year deal where you're feeding the cattle, you're fixing fence, you're putting up hay and stockpiling it for winter, you're treating a sick animal, you're tending to an animal that maybe doesn't live, and sometimes there's tears, sometimes there's heartaches, sometimes there's bad weather, but yet you get up again alongside your wife and your children and your family, and you do it again and again. And so to me, when I look at that steak, it represents what I think we need to bring back to this country. And so, it's a little different than somebody asked me that question once, and I said,
you asked me a Yellowstone
I'm like, there's a lot less murders in cowboy country, because at the end of the day, the other thing that cowboy country or culture represents to me is integrity, that your handshake, your word is your bond. And when you mean something and you say you're going to do something, you do it. And so that's the same thing with this auction process. We're asking you, what would you like to pay?
Yep.
You get to decide what that price is, and we will honor that by delivering a product. But you have to be on the other end of things,
No
basically shaking the proverbial hand of the American cattle rancher and say, let's make a deal.
Absolutely. Those are the people you want to do business with.
Right.
You want to do business with the guy that can shake your hand. He doesn't need a contract. He doesn't need anything. He'll shake your hand. It's going to be done. So.
Right. All right. Easy question. What's
Yes,
your
ma'am.
favorite cut, and how do you like to enjoy it?
I'm always a ribeye guy, so I mean, I can go into any. I was just telling the story the other day. I'm kind of turned into that guy. I went to John Elway Steakhouse in Denver Airport, and I just knew I was going to order the ribeye. I didn't care if it was $45 or $90. I was getting the ribeye. So I'm a ribeye guy.
I kind of am too, which makes this not interesting. I should say like sirloin or something, but that's the thing. These hot ticket items at the top of this sale, the tomahawk, the ribeyes, some of those are going to go for a lot because that's everybody's favorite cut. And the thing that people don't realize is when you process a beef animal, you don't get that many steaks. So some of them are very limited, whereas you might have more options, more abundance of hamburger or roast. But some of those, like a tenderloin, a prime rib, that ribeye, they're rare and exclusive, really.
When you get your shot, you better take it. That's
Absolutely.
what I can tell you. Yeah.
Bid high and bid often,
Yep.
and that's the thing too. To me, as we've done some of these auctions, it feels like an experience. Like people they've described it to us as I won the steak.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, it is. We want to invite you to this auction process because it is a fun experience and we enjoy it. I get to a cattle sale, and if I decide I want to buy that heifer, well, by golly, I'm buying that heifer.
I've seen you do it.
Get myself in trouble sometimes. Okay, so as we wrap up the show, I really appreciate everybody tuning in online and in person. If you haven't registered yet for bidonbeef.com, it's really easy to set up an account. Simply go to the top right-hand corner. It says create your account. There you can put in your shipping information, your credit card, and in order to bid and buy, you have to have your verified credit card information plugged in. So make sure you get all of that done.
We want the process to go quick and smoothly.
Right. And you can anticipate that an invoice will be sent to you very shortly, that the beef will be shipped out within just a few days of the auction sale. And stay tuned to our calendar because we have many events coming up. We have a dozen ranching partners that we've vetted to date in the last 2 weeks and more to come. So thank you so much for being a part of the American cattle ranching experience. And we can't wait for you to try this beef and just get a taste of the thing that we're so passionate about.
Yeah, thanks to the Wallens. Excited for him. Thanks, Amanda, for having me on.